This is chapter 2. And first of all, I wanted to mention I'm trying out this. There's a little frowny face with a pain measure there. That's something I'm considering for as part of the epitaphs since the theme is chronic pain. But yeah, it's just a kind of something I'm thinking of. So make sure it says chapter 2. All right. There is a huge gap between us and the Chiron, not just in ability, but in morality, culture, sanctity of life, and conscience. Force is all they do or ever will understand. We shall use the ultimate force until every Chiron council member comes crawling to us on all fours. Excerpt from Iberian Royal Army Field Manual number 724, Principles of Engagement and Psychological Warfare. Before I had time to react, it was too late. I came down hard on the cobblestone floor, and a sharp jolt of searing pain jumped from my hip, wrapping around the left side of my back in a way where I knew I tore something from the force. Hopefully it wasn't something important. I gasped the air force from my lungs in a strained rush when I felt my head bounce off the hard rock beneath me. I was stunned for a moment, blinking rapidly as I felt the ache from my back thread its way through my ribs. My heart was already pounding from standing for too long, but now it beat like it was running in circles, throwing its hands up in surrender to the abject fear and horror that took hold as my eyes adjusted enough to see the man who was on top of me. My eyes widened as I realized he was Chiron. There was no mistaking it, even in the dark. He had the same bronze skin that William did, and a messy mop of black hair sticking out at odd angles, a contradiction to his face, which was all sharp with harsh lines like it was drawn with an ink pen. He was haggard, his high cheekbones overshadowed by the gaunt hollows beneath them. He was bearded, but his facial hair was not well groomed. The way the moonlight streamed in through the window made him look haunting, almost ethereal. My face heated as I noticed he was shirtless. I snapped my eyes from his bare chest to stare just past his head at the ceiling. I had never seen a man this up close before. My whole body shook and I squirmed against his grip, some of the tunic still fisted in my hands. "Who are you?" I grit out, panic swelling in my chest. He wasn't as heavy as I initially thought. No, he was far too thin. Thick eyebrows furrowed at me as the wraith-like Chiron man tilted his head and narrowed his eyes. "Shouldn't I be the one asking that?" he grumbled, but his body betrayed him, his grip on my wrist slackening. I tensed, chancing a glance at his face. Our eyes met. As if I was slapped right out of my own skin, I was at once overpowered with the sense that my body was no longer mine. I was suddenly overwhelmed with this heavy feeling. My breath caught in my throat as the panic lessened, quieted by a rush of emotions that seemed to seep into my every pore. It was as if somebody had scooped out my core and poured in molten grief, pain, and a dash of fear to taste. Lost in his eyes, I was a kettle of horrors, and the heavy weight of immense sadness was my lid. Then, like steam from my spout, I felt lighter. I felt surprise, perhaps curiosity. My skin prickled at something that felt almost like concern. Each of these feelings were tiny puffs of air coming from my spout, all secondary to the anguish of— I messed that sentence up. I don't know what that's supposed to say. The hot anguish of grief that was burning me from the inside. There we go. "What is somebody like you doing in the guards' quarters?" His words ripped me back into reality, my lungs screaming as I pulled in air like I forgot how to breathe. As fast as the episode began, it ended, and I was slammed back into my own panicking, aching body. Here I was again, too stupid to know when I should sit down like a good lady, shut up, and stay in my goddamned room. I saw the man's gaze drop lower, halting at my upper lip. My heart stuttered. I knew I should have put on the concealing cream that Maggie bought me at the market. Then something familiar caught the corner of my eye. A red tunic was in a crumpled pile just to the right of us. An Iberian Royal Army uniform. The alarm bells ringing in my head reached a fever pitch, panic exploding in my chest, and this time I was certain it was my own. The Iberian Royal Army only deployed to Silva del Monte when they were sourcing undesirables for the quarterly culling. I felt like an animal with its foot caught in a hunting trap. I felt a rush as I twisted in his grip, my eyes frantically looking for the door. It was still open a crack. "I'm not going to hurt you," the man said, his voice just above a whisper. I paused for a heartbeat, chest rising and falling from both panic and exerting myself. "You already did," I groaned, still reeling from the tidal wave of emotions that just swept me out to sea. Whatever muscle I tore in my lower back spasmed. His grip loosened, and that's when I struck, driving my knee up into the one place William always told me to aim for. His testicles. I need him in the testicles. The wraith crumpled and I skid across the floor away from him, my spine groaning in complaint as I tried to twist where it was fused in my panic. I'm sorry, I squeaked, and I meant it. I wasn't sorry for kneeing him in the testicles. He deserved that, but I was sorry for waking him up. I stood to run, stumbling as my vision went black before sparkling back. My eyes flicked back to where the Chiron man was still, immobilized on a pile of blankets next to the bed. I started towards the door but stopped at the entryway, turning back when I realized I forgot the tunics, the whole reason I was in this mess in the first place. I just needed one. Gods be damned, the man moaned, curled on the ground with his hands between his legs. I felt a pang of guilt cut its way through my panic. I know he probably wants me dead, but he didn't look well. He was far too thin. Maybe he was a vagrant seeking shelter and, like me, picked the lock. Maggie told me it wasn't uncommon for medically discharged soldiers to become vagrants if they managed to avoid getting culled. I didn't want to make anybody suffer when they were already struggling. Were those his emotions that flooded my mind, gutting me and turning me inside out before mercifully leaving, or did I just imagine it? The only certainty of it all was that in all of the daydreaming I've done about meeting real people, I never wanted it to end with me kneeing somebody in the testicles. I am really, really sorry, I whimpered as I stepped over the man and over the blankets twisted around him on the floor. I just wanted a tunic. Snatching the old fart tunic, I apologized again and got the fuck out of there.